All right, everyone, welcome to Monday's Mastermind. And as I was saying earlier, today we've got everybody from Los Angeles in between to Washington, D.C. And we're going to be talking about what is happening in those real estate markets. Because look, everybody's different, okay? But then you start to have these conversations and you start to look at the data and you realize not everybody is so different, right? And so we're going to share all of those things. We're going to share, what does it look like? And these panelists are top notch. They're doing a lot of business in their market. They're going to share with you exactly how they're doing that, but we're going to get into a lot of data and statistics today. Make sure you put your questions in the chat because this is what this is about. This is about you. This is about us answering those questions and giving you as much information as possible. So today on our panelists, we've got Julie Richardson from Vincent, Ohio. Vincent, Ohio is about 80 miles to everywhere, right, Julie? Is that the best way to explain it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so Julie's going to be on the panel today representing rural America. That's safe to say, rural America, right? Rural America, look, rural America pretty soon is going to become the city of America, right? Because everything is being developed. And with what we're going to hear today about housing shortages, you're going to hear a lot about that, right? So we're going to have that. Laura, we have in the Midwest from Chicago, and we're going to be talking about suburban Chicago and everything around that. We've got Keith and Kelly Jackson who are sitting in our United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., and covering that area today. We've got Jared Cowan in Indianapolis, Indiana, again, in the Midwest, and talking about, what's going on there. And then we've got DC all the way out in Los Angeles, California, who's going to talk to us about crazy, 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 ridiculous prices and how you all have been just appreciating beyond belief. But look, I think everybody's going to talk a little bit about appreciation and so forth. So let's dive into this, you all. Keep the questions coming for sure, but let's dive in with Julie. Julie, give us some background. Talk about the housing market in Vincent, Ohio. Now, look, I know in rural America, your reach is it's pretty remarkable, your reach. So tell us a little bit about your reach and what you have to do to be successful in real estate there.
Oh, wow, Stephanie. I travel 10 to 14 counties between Ohio and West Virginia. We are rural. It takes me 2 hours to get to an airport. And cell phone signal can be sporadic when I get out, in the country, obviously. I do a lot of rural properties, land, farms. Of course, I do lots of residential, but I get into remote situations, and that's why I absolutely have to have a four-wheel drive truck. So I've been doing this for 18 years now, and I, just built my business the same way I do now, the same way that I started. And since I've lived here in this area, that's actually where I got started when I moved to this area. So it's rural, but I love it. And you just have to accept the area. Some agents that have their fancy vehicles, they limit themselves and can't go the places that I go in my four-wheel drive. So
Very cool. And we're going to ask this entire panel this question, but I want to ask Julie this first. So over the course of the last, few years, what have you seen as far as price appreciation in rural America? Have you seen price appreciation?
we have here too, Stephanie, and it's kind of astounding because we haven't seen a huge growth in the income of people in the area, but yet the housing prices have almost tripled. So
Tripled. Wow.
yeah, it's really something. The price points, they used to be around like 125, 150. I mean, I think that they're, maybe I shouldn't say triple, but they're closer to what you could buy 18 years ago at, 160 to 200,000 is now, 300 to 350. So
Wow.
it's crazy. It's crazy. And the land prices have just been crazy. I mean, 15,000 to 25,000 an acre, depending on where it is. I just put two tracks under here over the weekend, and they were $25,000 an acre. One
Wow.
track was like two something acres, and the other one was three. So I mean, that is significant in the increase in that. And then also too, what's happening is it's venturing out further, into the more rural areas because that's the only place for expansion. And
Julie, when you see these,
infrastructure issues with water, and of course there's a lot of septics around here, but the water is an issue now too.
when you see these land deals happening, and I know exactly what you're talking about when you talk about the appreciation and what land price per acre has gone to, because it is astounding, you all. I'm a land developer. It is astounding, right? When people talk about how housing prices have gone up tremendously, and when people say that the cost of construction has gone up tremendously, you got to start with the root of the whole entire thing, guys. Land has gone up tremendously. And when people come to me, or realtors come to me, or customers, clients, buyers, whatever, and they go, gosh, these lots are just so small. And it's like, but we have to make them so small in order to make this make sense, right? In order to get development to make sense. So Julie, 15 to 25,000 in rural America, to me, is just unbelievable amount of money. And are you seeing this land being purchased from people from outside, or are these locals?
I see it from both places. The two I just put under were local people, and we've looked for a while to find the right piece because we have a lot of hills and stuff like that here. So finding the right relatively flat piece of property, it's easier on the Ohio side than it is on the West Virginia side. But I have seen a mix of people from outside of the area coming in to what we call the Mid-Ohio Valley, which is Ohio and West Virginia, right where I'm located.
Awesome. Julie, we're going to come back to you. All right, Laura, I want to move on to you in suburban Chicago. And I want to ask you that same, question about what you're seeing as far as, the appreciation and what has been going on in your housing market over the last, couple years.
Yeah, the Chicago metro market is, I don't know if all areas are like this, but we have our north side, our west side, our south side, and the prices vary so greatly, whatever market you're in. But I did the little bit of research before this call, and I looked at the metro market as a whole. So it's going to encompass all the areas. And in the last 3 years, so from 21 to 24, there's been between a 25 to 30% increase. Now, over the last year, we've seen about a 7% increase. So it's definitely slowed down a little bit. The prior years were, I think the first year was, I marked that down, like 20, let's see, 21 was a 10 to 12% increase. 22 was a 7.9. And then, no, that was 22, 23. Anyway, we've seen a little bit of a lower increase. So they're still going up, but everything is flattening out. Everything. Houses that are on the market, we've seen an increase in them over the past 12 months. I did a lot of research on 23 to 24, and we're seeing a lot of flattening going on right now. That's definitely what we're finding.
Are you seeing longer times on the market?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And buyers are pulling the market back by saying, hey, Mr. Seller, you're trying to charge more for that house, but guess what? I'm not going to pay that. So they're saying, we're not going to make an offer on that house until you reduce the price. We're seeing a lot of price reductions. And we're seeing, I think Julie mentioned too, someone mentioned a lot of fall through. A lot of fall through. A lot of buyers are going under contract, changing their mind. It's happening quite a bit. We hadn't seen this, of course, since COVID in 2020. Prior to that, of course, we saw it through the years, but this hasn't been going on until this past year. We've seen a lot of that going on.
It's interesting because when you're looking at the data and you look at suburban Chicago as a whole, the statistics say that the Chicago area is short 142,000 homes. but the market is flattening. So
Yep.
it's like, how on earth is that happening? And then you wonder, are they moving further away from Chicago? And maybe that's why, maybe there's a Julie Richardson further out that's really busy right now.
Yeah,
I'm just asking the question, maybe.
that's absolutely what's going on. Last year, the last couple years, buyers were moving out of the city. They're going to the suburbs because they want that lifestyle. They want the outdoor space. They want to get out of the city. Now, what we're finding is because prices have gone so crazy, they're so high that they can't afford them. People are definitely moving out. I noticed this year, my market absolutely went a lot farther out than I normally sell. And I've had a number of transactions further out like that because the prices are lower. So we do have a lot of open space and farmland still here, especially if you go a little further south, and they are starting to develop it. So hint, hint, if anyone's looking to buy land, you might want to go a little further south of where I'm at because I've got a couple parcels on the market right now, 30 acres, 25 acres, smaller ones, but the prices are definitely increasing on land here too. But we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of building and development going on.
And I want to remind all of us what inspired this phone call. And there was a conversation on one of our internal masterminds that we were having that a tract builder needed acreage to build 7,000 new homes north of a metro city called Atlanta, Georgia. We don't have anybody from Atlanta on this call on this panel today, but on the outskirts of Atlanta is what they're searching for. And so think about that for a second. Again, this is why Julie is seeing land costs go from 2,500 an acre, Julie, 5 years ago to 15,000 and 25,000 an acre today. Right? Because that is what the demand is. And then you look at Chicago, and guys, I'm not very smart. I have data pulled up on my left side of my screen, so I want to disclose that right now. But I've got all the data pulled up here, and we can see what that shortage is, but then we can see what the trend is doing. And even though there's shortages of housing, not everybody is flocking to the cities as much as they were before. All right, Laura, we're going to come back to you, but now we're going to move to DC. Is everybody flocking to Washington, D.C., Keith and Kelly? Or are we running away from the politics with screaming with our heads cut off? No, I'm teasing. All right, talk to us about what's going on in DC, because you all have a crazy price per square foot.
Yeah.
Yes, and DC is divided up much like Chicago. So we came from the Chicago market, 14 years in Chicago, 6 in Houston, and 4 in DC. So we've been all over except for LA. And one of the things that we're seeing, people are moving back. So DC is divided northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. And so what we're seeing is people are moving back to the city. People want to live on Capitol Hill and walk to work. People want to live in Navy Yard and be near the water. People want to live in Northwest DC so they could have walkability, and they want to be in the Georgetown area for the same reason. And so all of these areas are booming and bustling, and we have people on top of people in DC. When you talked about land, you're not getting any land. Like you're going to have to tear something down. I personally have had a vacant lot on the market, 1 acre in where we live for $400,000. So when you talk about $15,000 an acre, that was amazing. And we're in Northern Virginia. So you can see that the cost throughout the area. So people are, and it's more, and it's not just the younger families that are moving to DC. It's retirees that are coming back. We have co-ops, we have condos, we have some single family houses, and we have a lot of row homes in DC. And so people are moving into all of those. And while our price growth has only been 5% in the last year, prior to that, we were seeing, I think the record was, I had a house and we got 100 offers during the COVID years on one single family house. It was, I had to turn my phone off because it was just nuts. And so now we are still seeing multiple offers, but many fewer.
Near like it used to be. No, that's slowed down a good bit. So just last month, well, September 2023, we had 3,700. September 2024, 3,730. So change of 2%. Nothing really changed. Whereas you look at the median sales price, September 23, 550. This year, 599. That's up 6.2%.
Hey, and you all, that's per square foot, $599 per square foot. Julie, I want to come back to you just for 1 second. What is your price per square foot? We talked about acreage. What's your price per square foot?
You know what? That's a good thing that you asked, because it's varying. You know, it can go for 110 a square foot to I'm seeing 300. There's no rhyme or reason right now.
Okay. All right. Laura, real quick, let's go back to you. And I know it can jump all over the place, but let's do your average price per square foot.
Yeah, I did the average, and in 2023 it was 179. In 2024 it's 188. So it went up a smidge.
A smidge. And in DC, our capital, it's $599. We might as well just say it like it is, $600. And people on this call, Keith and Kelly, are saying, what do these people do to afford that?
You know, we have a lot of government workers, a lot of military coming back and forth between, so it's always in flux here. And we have several people by sight unseen. We go out, you know, take a few pictures, a few videos, and they're trusting us to be their eyes and ears. So it's a constant movement, and you have to be well versed and nimble to help, especially the military when they have their orders. It's strict timelines and deadlines that you have to move with. So it's a fast-paced market.
And we have to think about, some people made so much equity in their house that they can afford to move up. I sold a lady's house. She bought it in the 80s for under 100,000, and I sold it 2 years ago for 1.3 million.
Wow.
And she was a veteran, and so then she went and bought a 1,000 square foot property for $650,000 with a $2,000 a month assessment. And so the amount of money that people have here is just, it's unbelievable. It's
crazy.
And I tried to talk her out of it, and she said, "Oh no, they you know, it's a full service." I was like, "But that assessment." And
unlike Julie, I wanted to get a truck when I left Texas. I was going to get a pickup truck. Pickup truck wouldn't make any sense here trying to navigate these tight streets of DC. So it's out of the question.
Not only that, we pay personal property tax on our vehicles based on the amount that the property is worth, that the car is worth, the car is worth. So every year we pay a tax bill on our car. Personal property tax.
All right, we're gonna come back to you DC folks here in a second. Let's go to DC in Los Angeles now. Daryll Clark, DC.
Hey.
Because if you thought Washington DC was a little bit ridiculous, let's talk about Los Angeles. Let's talk about your all's crazy prices out there, Daryll. What's been going on in Los Angeles over the last couple of years with real estate? You're muted, bud. You're muted.
Okay, we're good? We're good?
Yep.
Okay. LA is all over the place. I mean, right now, as of September this year, the average sales price is a little over $1 million. And that's averaging about 640 square feet, $640 a square foot. And so the thing is that when you look at Los Angeles, you've got, we'll just use Los Angeles, for example. You have West LA, you have East LA, you have South LA, and you have North LA. So I live in the South Bay area, which is 5-10 minutes by the beach. Okay, it's called Harbor City, San Pedro, Long Beach, Torrance area. Okay. In my community, the average of 4-bedroom, 3-bath house can run you anywhere from $800 to $1 million. Now I can go up the hill, which is about 15 minutes. I can actually walk up the hill, which is called Palos Verdes, which is one of the most pricey areas in California, period, or actually in the United States. That same house can run over $2.53 million just by going about 10, 15-minute drive as well. So when they say location, 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 in LA is definitely location as well. But the thing is that the market has not slowed down, but it's all based on now affordability. It's all centered around the interest rate. When we were during COVID, when we were getting 2.53% interest rates on a loan, and that changed 3 years later, that same individual who was able to afford a $600,000-700,000 home, they are now having to gravitate towards a condo. Okay, from a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home to a maybe 2-bedroom, 2-bath condominium as well. Maybe, it all depends, because now, because the condominiums and the townhomes, they have actually increased in price. For example, I have a property that's on the market, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo for 1,058 square feet, and that is legitimately listed for over 510,000. And I had agents calling, screaming, thinking that it should not be priced that way. Well, I had to tell them, I said, I want you to put on your appraisal cap, and I want you to go and look at the comparables and look at the sales price within that community, and you'll see what's sold within the last 30 to 45 days. And you see that because what I believe in pricing properties so that they can sell, not to give a fictitious number out there, because what that does, it gives a disservice to your client as well, because it's just going to sit as well. And of course, we got the asking price. So right now is where we're at it doesn't even matter now as far as properties that are going on the market. The key is in LA, it has to be priced right in order for it to sell, because the buyers today in Los Angeles are dictating the market right now. They will sit on the sideline until that property is priced right. Once it's priced, they will jump in. So what agents are doing now is that they're coming in and they're pretty much pricing it below market, so that of course they can create that frenzy. And that's happening. Those who are not doing that, you'll see that they're probably just sitting on the market for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then they figure it out about a month or two later. And then they have to drop it about 15, 20% as well. So also too, a big thing in California is vacant land. We're in a big development phase as far as housing, affordable housing, things of that nature. So I'm actually personally tracking down a lot of developers in the area. I'm going by different development sites, and I'm just taking pictures and taking down the names of the companies and reaching out to them, because now of course, you guys hear about what's going on in California in terms of the homelessness problem and things of that nature. Well, they have opened up the floodgates to the developers. The city of LA has actually made it very, very friendly for contractors to come in and get permits, approved in record time. And one time you can have a property that was probably a 2-story, maybe 4 or 5 units. They can actually go up to 6 stories and build 30 to 40 units, okay, on that same piece of land, simply because they're trying to answer that, they're trying to solve that problem as far as homelessness. But that's just a big opening for the developers, what have you too. So that's what's going on in California as well. So now the rates have kind of dropped a bit. So and what that has done, that has taken folks off the sideline, so they are buying as well. What I'm actually sitting down and talking to my clients, I have a lot of millennials that are coming to me, and let's say that the average income in California is about 50, 60,000 overall, 50, 60, maybe 70,000 a year. Well, I say, well, let's look at this direction. You're making 60 grand a year. Your partner here is making 60 grand a year. Your buddy's making another 60. That's 180,000. Because based on what you need to qualify for out here, you really need to qualify for anywhere from 150 to $200,000 a year for a decent property. And and that's pretty much how it is because I've done the numbers. So a lot of folks now are going in, they're teaming up and they're building conglomerates and things of that nature to purchase also. Or you have families that are just buying together. Okay. But also too, you have a lot of the transfer of wealth that is taking place where the grandparents and the parents, they're pretty much liquidating some of their assets and they're actually giving gifts to their kids so they can purchase, which is allowing them to have larger down payments versus just doing an FHA. They can come with 20-30% down as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
DC, we're going to come back to you. I want to get to Indianapolis. I want to get, now that we've gone to the max and the extreme, I want to come back down to reality a little bit and go to Jared Cowan in Indianapolis, where I think the average price per square foot, well, Jared, tell us, where are we at with Indianapolis?
Yeah, we're right under 160 a foot still, 158 to be exact, this year. But similar to everyone else, though, we're still seeing appreciation. Last year was, I think, 5%, a little over 5%. Prior, going all the way back to 21, I think we're up 27%. So overall, big jump in like 21, and then kind of trending still with an appreciating market, but lower appreciation year over year.
Absolutely. And Indianapolis as well has a housing shortage. They need more homes to be built. And so again, there's a lot of demand for people moving to Indianapolis. What's the draw?
I think the draw is development and opportunity. Land, I think for us is definitely increasing, price per acre is going up, but we still see a lot of money coming into the city. Like right now we got, I think, $110 billion in planned infrastructure across the entire state. So like that's a ton in comparison to where we're normally at. So got a couple professional soccer league teams coming in. That's just going to increase pricing as well. So we're also getting a big influx of out of market investors. So a lot of people putting their cash here in the Midwest, which is always good, increases pricing. But in comparison to 21, I was looking at it, we're still down 11% for cash sales. So a lot of people that are getting loans in comparison to 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're saying that you all have about 116,000 homes as a housing deficit, and by 2028, that's exactly what you're going to need in order to fulfill all of that. Are you seeing kind of like what Julie and Laura and everybody is outside of Indianapolis is exploding all the way around it as well too?
For sure, yeah. And I would even say too, like the condominium townhome market closer to the city is a little bit down. And most people are kind of flooding into the suburbs and then from there going into the outskirts, rural areas, get more land. And there's a lot of people that are kind of what Laura was saying, moving from the suburbs into the outskirts, probably about a $50,000 to $75,000 difference in what you can get. And you're only going about 20 miles. So a little bit better bang for your buck.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. Well, and two, Indianapolis, I mean, right there in the center of the country as well. Lots of things going around. You all have, like you mentioned, you've got the soccer teams coming. You've already got the pro football, pro basketball, a lot of things to do in Indianapolis and so forth. All right, let's get back to Julie. I want to talk to you a little bit about, okay, you're what did we say? 80 miles to everything, right? Pittsburgh,
yeah, Huntington, anywhere like that.
Okay. What are you seeing as far as, are you seeing any industry coming in? Any new industry that's pulling in more people to your area? Or is it just solely people moving away from the city?
Yeah, there's really not any new developments with industry here, within the hour radius of me. So it's just people moving in. And the money's also has come from people that have sold and then they have a little bit to reinvest. But, it's pretty much status quo over all of these years with employment for people around here.
Awesome. All right. Laura, it's Chicago, so there's always something going on in Chicago. So let's talk let's go back to, we talked a little bit about the days on the market are a little bit longer. So do you feel that it's definitely a buyer's market in Chicago?
I think it's a buyer's market when the house is priced. No, it's a buyer's market when the house is overpriced. If the house is priced right, it's still a seller's market and we're still seeing multiple offers and them selling quickly. But we're having the same problem that everyone's trying to still stay, get their prices up there and they're not selling. So if a house is priced right though, it's going quickly.
With everything that's been so crazy over the course with COVID and all of that, how do you know that a house is priced right in suburban Chicago?
It's very easy. It sells right away.
Well, but
sells
how do
within
you come
3
up
or 4
with
days.
that price, Laura?
Closed comps really, and I keep my market analysis really tight, the last 3 months rather than oppose the last 6 months or a year. If I can't find comps, I have to go out further, but I really try to keep it super tight, to know where the trending is. And I looked at the stats in the MLS because we have a tool there where we can really look at stats. And I looked at the graphs over the last couple of years, and really it's trending almost neck to neck the way it's done for years. Where we're starting to trend down now. The first quarter's been slower than normal. So depending on what's on the market and what time of the year and how many buyers are out there might dictate a little bit where you can price it. But right now we were seeing in the town I live in, it was running about 30, 35 houses on the market at any given time. Right now there's 66, so it's doubled.
Okay, more inventory, more choices, price needs to be. So that's what everybody needs to remember, when you're out pricing. Price does matter these days for sure. Keith, Kelly, let's talk about that. You all talked about how you've got so much competition going on. There's more buyers than there are inventory in DC, but is it about price? Is it about pricing it right, or it just sells no matter what?
It's about pricing
pricing
it
it right.
right.
Yep.
It's definitely about pricing it right. And some people are still holding on to those years where we were up 10, 20% year over year. So they're holding on tight to that. We're still in a seller's market, but it does have to be priced close to realistic. If it's in one of the hot areas, then people will, and it's overpriced, they'll still make an offer on it. If it's in an area that's not trending upward, so not Navy Yard or one of those places, then you're going to see it sit. And it depends on the type of home. A single family is certainly going to move faster than a condo, or a co-op is going to move least quickly in our market.
Wow. So what, as far as, let's talk about, you all are in DC, but obviously in surrounding areas, and we're focused on, all this area. So when you look at what's around DC and you see the spreading happening, there's a lot of development going on, correct? A lot of new?
It's torn, you have to tear something down.
Right.
You got to tear it down.
Or you're moving to Southern Maryland to get out of DC. That's where you see a lot of the newer construction homes, and you have some land, some room to spread your wings. So Charles County has grown tremendously and become a lot of wealth has moved to Charles County because you have that land space to get out of DC. So that's where you see the transition. If you just say, hey, I got to get out of here. I want some land. I want to have some space.
Right.
They're moving to Charles County.
Okay. And how far is that from DC, the city?
Too far.
Too far.
There's nothing.
So you're not getting anything new unless you buy something, tear it down, and build it, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Someone has torn, or a developer will tear down like a building and put, some other properties, but you have to tear something down. There's very little land in DC that you can just purchase.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you do, it's very, very expensive.
So there is no need to ever be a new construction specialist in Washington, DC.
No.
No.
Very limited new construction, especially coming from Houston. It's night and day.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap our minds around that. Whereas Houston, everything was going up brand new. not here.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's very few developers as well, because there's not much to develop, and so forth. DC, let's talk about that. You've already mentioned it. You've already touched on it a little bit with Los Angeles and what's happening. They've got a huge, significant shortage of houses. It's been said, but let's talk about this because, and maybe you know more than I do, but I keep hearing the chatter of, if the average price is $1 million and you're talking about somebody making 150,000 a year, how do you afford $1 million on 150,000 a year? And your
Well,
Big Mac meal is $18.
exactly.
I don't understand.
It's well, what's happening is that you have folks there, those at one time that wanted to live in the city and have the convenience of shopping just a block away, and the family's all, pretty much within minutes away and what have you, and the great schools, which they're compromising. So we have LA. Now we have the outskirts, which we call the Inland Empire, which is San Bernardino County, Riverside County, or you have even we have city of Lancaster and Palmdale. And pretty much you have one is far west and one is far east. However, you're talking about a 30 to 40% drop in prices in terms of purchasing a home. So in other words, that $1 million home in Los Angeles that could be, let's say, maybe 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and a great school, that house can now cost you, and let's say in San Bernardino, about maybe 500,000
Okay. So you
just
just,
by
Mhm.
driving another, um, let's say 45 to hour drive as well. And I know this because I work with clients on both ends as well. I was in San Bernardino Friday, showing a client of mine. He's a pastor and he's looking to invest. We were able to put an offering on a 2 bedroom, 2 bath condo that was 1,400 square feet, and it was $215,000. That same condo out here in LA would have been over $700,000 for that same floor plan and everything as well. So it was really the number. So folks that were really steadfast and wanting to stay within the city, now they're able to work from home. They're able to use a large degree of flexibility, but also too, they're understanding where their dollars can take them. So they're willing to move out as well. Or even too, they'll look at purchasing maybe units, something like that, a duplex or a triplex also. So those are things that are happening. And then you have some that are just pretty much flat out giving up. But that's where you as a realtor, we have to be creative, not only just in helping them to purchase, but also look at what type of financing is out there. What if this person is self-employed? What if this person owns a company? Well, guess what? Their financing is not the same type of financing as somebody that's traditional. So we have to put those things together as well. And that's something I've done over the past. So it takes, you have to do your homework now, really. It's just not like it's not like a cookie cutter process now, the way it is.
That is right. That is right. I was looking at data, and we're talking about the cost of everything that's coming up, and what we feel like the average, it's going to continue to climb that average. And so did anybody see that article this morning? I was trying to find it quickly, but I got it. I think NAR did it. What the average price of a home in the US by 2028 is going to be. And I think it's $438,000, which today, what's the average price of a home? What's today's average price of a home? Anybody know? I think it's 384,000, I think, if anybody looks. But anyway, so that's what they're estimating it to be. Now, of course, that's cheap when we're listening to Kelly and we're listening to DC, but it's expensive when we're talking to Jared, right? Who the average price of a home, Jared, I don't know where Jared went, but so we have to put all of that into perspective, but we also look at the cost of what, everything is going up, and we start with land and what all that is costing. Of course, that's what is increasing, number one. Number two, the cost of construction and so forth. All right, let's talk about the projected growth of what's going on. I mean, we know that rural America is growing, Julie. You've already been telling us that. We know that the land cost is going up. We know that the land has appreciated. What is the average tract of land that people are buying? Is it 15, 20, 50, 100 acres? Is it getting smaller and smaller?
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't have big chunks like that really that much anymore. I mean, I
Yeah.
did a property in Worth County, West Virginia last week, and it was 114 acres, but it also has a house on it, and it has 4 garages, for 400, and that's
Yeah.
high.
Well, and I think too, Julie, is that why our farmers are disappearing? Because they can't afford to farm a $25,000 an acre tract of land. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, and the farmers we see around here, I mean, they've been established for years and years and years. We don't see the new farmers coming in unless it's family and they're passing it down, is what we see here. Family businesses. But do I see new people coming in and establishing farms? No, I don't. See family business farms. And
Family business.
yeah, but the average house price, in Washington County, where I live on the Ohio side, is like 180,000 roughly.
Okay, 180,000.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, our population, I don't know, 58,000 people maybe. I'm not really sure. I'd have to look it up. But on the Ohio side in Washington County where I live, there's only 142 houses that are on the market right now, which is normal.
Okay. So is it a seller or buyer's market, Julie?
Pricing is everything. Pricing is everything. I just listed one last week, and it's already under contract. A $240,000 house.
Okay, I want to go around to everybody and ask the same question. If interest rates go below 5.5%, what's going to happen in your market? Julie?
Well, we'll have more buyers, and I've got a lot of buyers now, but there's not a lot of inventory. So therefore, it'll jack up and keep the prices inflated because there's not a lot of houses.
Laura, what's going to happen in suburban Chicago if interest rates fall below 5.5%?
I laugh because 5%, 6% is really low. The history of the markets I've been in, 9% was average for many years, 7% was average for many years. I don't see a big difference between 6% and 5%. I have a credit union that can get 5.25% for people right now, and yet they're still not buying.
So you don't think that's going to change anything?
I don't think it's going to have a drastic effect, no.
Keith, Kelly, do you think the lowering interest rates are going to have a drastic effect in your market?
Yes, I do. I think it's going to be, those first-time buyers are going to get priced out. I mean, the competition is just going to get fierce, and sellers, people are going to be overpaying for homes again. So we saw an increase just this quarter with the announcement coming off the 7 hitting the 6s.
And it didn't even go down.
Yeah, people came out. So I can't, if it goes to the 5s, it's just going to really.
Yeah, it'll affect the lower price ranges, but not too much impact on the higher prices.
Right. So
DC.
that
Go ahead.
entry market will be squeezed out.
Okay, DC, Los Angeles, is it going to help?
It's going to be a frenzy because one thing we found out, people are buying on emotion. They're using maybe 20% logic, and then you have the agents that are pushing it. Out here, it's going to be a frenzy, and it's going to be on both ends. You have the buyers that's going to be jumping us. Oh my God, honey, no longer 7%, we're 5.5%. Let's raise the 401k. And then you have the seller that's been wanting to relocate. Shoot, now it's going to be a seller's market again because you got the frenzy. So yes, it's
Yeah.
going to make a big difference out here in California, big time.
Jared, Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely be pushing into a seller's market. The only thing I see potentially hindering that is time of year in Indiana with it getting a little colder now. Typically, we see a little bit of a transition downwards from a inventory standpoint and a buyer standpoint. So, but if we get the rates down, it's definitely going to turn into a seller's market again. And I think it's going to be a seller's market regardless heading into Q1 of 25. So it's not going to be good for the buyers.
And I agree with DC. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, you all, and also licensed in Southern Indiana, doing commercial real estate all over, but a residential developer here in the local market. And, I have not had any effects on $2.5, $3 million sales over the course of the last several months. No effects whatsoever. But across the bridge or across the river, in a neighborhood that's 650, 700, 800,000, slow, very, very slow. Okay. Because those are the people that it affects. All right. And I think that when the rates lower, regardless of how low they go, it is psychological. It is emotional, like Daryl said. I love that, DC, because you're right. It is emotional and it is a play on words. It is a complete play on what people feel. And the moment that all of us on social media, the rates are low, the sky is falling, and come on and pick up the money, right? $100 bills falling from the sky. That is when people react, and they will. And things will go back to a little bit. And that, they're not going to be the 2.6% interest rate. But if they go to 5%, you all, I'm going to tell you right now, mark this down, Stephanie Gillison, and most of you probably will agree, that's going to be the new 2.5%. 5 is going to be the new 2.5%. And everybody's going to go, oh my God, honey bear, this is the lowest the interest rates are ever going to be. Let's move. Don't you think? DC believes. I think that's what's going to happen. And so, get ready for that. Elections coming up. This is why we wanted to do this today. We wanted to do this so that all of you could see that regardless of market, regardless of LA, Indianapolis, Chicagoland, DC, Vincent, Ohio, which is 82 miles from anything and everything. I say that because it's 82 miles from Columbus and 83 miles from Pittsburgh. Am I right, Julie?
You're right.
Yeah, I looked it up. I looked it up one time and I remember that. I laugh at that. But, we do that because it's the same. Did you see what you saw today or hear or learn today? It's the same. Real estate is the same, and it's all in how you approach it, and it's all in how you're working with it and the data. And so if you utilize, I love how you all text message my phone when I ask you to put it in the chat right here on Zoom. Crazy people, come on now, come on. So, but this is what I love about it. So, we have extremes. Real estate markets have absolute extremes. Okay. We've learned that today with LA being, what are you price per square foot, DC? Did we ever say 742?
About 640 per square foot.
Oh, that's right. 640 a square foot. Keith and Kelly, 600 a square foot, $5.99. Let's give you all $1 and tell you 600. It sounds better. Jared, where are you price per square foot?
158.
158. Julie, depends. Rural America, it's all over the place because of acreage. And Laura, you are at.
It was funny because I thought about this after I mentioned the number. We're at about 188, but the new construction's about 350.
Yeah.
New construction is extremely high here. So that I find kind of
because of the land, folks. That's because
our land prices are high here. That's for sure.
But look, real estate agents used to always say to me as a developer and a builder, they used to always say, Stephanie, you will never, ever get that price for that house. And I'd look at them and I'd say, yeah, I will, because that's what it cost. And it's so true, because that's what it costs, you all. And you got to put profit on it. Otherwise, why are you in the business to do it? And so, you know, you've got to remember that. And, you know, when people want that new construction in the markets, Keith and Kelly don't know even what this is like, but for the rest of us that do, you know, those costs are not going to get any lower. And having 2 hurricanes and the devastation that we just saw over here on this side of the country in the Southeast United States, listen, construction costs are going to go up even more because lumber is going to rise. You know, everything that's necessary to rebuild, it's going to go up. It's going to go up. And so, you know, nothing's going to come back down. And so that's why, yes, the hope is the interest rates are coming down, because 5% is the new 2.5%. Mark my words, get ready. It's getting ready to turn on in a big way. And y'all are going to be so freaking busy that you're going to go, oh my gosh, remember that mastermind when we heard that 5% was the new 2.5? Who was that girl? Stephanie Gillis, and that's who that is. You all, thank you today. Julie Richardson, Jared Cowan, Keith and Kelly Jackson, DC Clark, Laura from Chicago, John. Next week we have.
Next week we're doing the update for the 60-day update post.
Oh my goodness. 60 days after the sky fell, right? You all, the sky fell when the whole world changed. The sky didn't fall. Because guess what? I hear you all are making way more money now getting buyer agreements signed than you ever did in the past. Man, we just broke the glass.
Stephanie,
Congratulations.
Hey, Stephanie, can I mention something?
Please.
And you know what? When I call the agents, they say, hey, yeah, of course we're gonna pay a compensation. They say, hey man, how are we gonna get this thing sold? So everyone is, you know, like you're saying, the sky was falling and, oh, I'm going to leave the business. I'm like, come on, this business, let's go to work.
Let's go to work. Exactly.
Let's just go to work.
I love it. I love it. Look, buyer compensation's always been around on the commercial side of things. It needed to be around on the residential side of things. We're going to give a 60-day update next week. We're going to hear success stories. We're going to hear what's working. We're going to hear scripts. And if some of you have still been too scared to make those calls and you quit showing homes or quit showing properties, oh my gosh, you better show up, and we're going to give you that backbone that you desperately need to go out and win and make money in this world. Thank you for tuning in to Grow Global. Maybe next week Jim Lambrett will be back and you all won't have to have me.
Awesome
Hey,
job.
you guys are both superstars.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.